dear viewer, welcome to my build. This time I wanted to make something simple and go for a classic sorting board playstyle. A week ago I had this nice chat with one of my fellow subscribers about how my builds are usually very power oriented, and you know, there is a point in that. Not every character needs to be a walking doom and destruction. So I went for a simple fighter build with an interesting roleplay and, incidentally, made him a walking doom and destruction. Sorry about that. This is the World Eater, your typical honest-to-goodness Dragonborn, who went completely insane. The power and responsibility of a Dragonborn was too much for him, apparently, and now he believes he is on his way to become a dragon. Maybe it's all the dragon souls he's been absorbing, or maybe the gods have chosen a weak-minded individual, but after slaying Alduin, he becomes obsessed with the thought that Alduin's soul is now his. Even though we all know that is not true. You can't absorb Alduin's soul. With Immersive Armors mod, he crafts an epic armor out of Alduin's scales and becomes a terror of Skyrim, a misguided villain whose name is whispered in fear. It is a fighter build with a heavy focus on shouts. It also needs a few specific enchantments available in the Summer Mist mod, so for the build to function exactly as shown in this video, you are going to need the Immersive Armors and the Summer Mist. I would also recommend the Thunderchild mod to give a broader choice of shouts and provide means to increase the power of your shouts and further decrease the cooldown timer. The general combat style idea is to fling your foes away from you as often as you can, so we will use our unrelenting force a lot. Add the Shield of Auriel, which throws or staggers enemies on Power Bash, and enchant our Mace with an enchantment which also has a chance to make them fly. In the late game we will top it with the Shield Charge, which we will often use in the ethereal form granted by a shout because it preserves our stamina. Apparently Shield Charge doesn't interrupt the ethereal form, so using this combo at the start of a fight will turn the tide in your favor without much cost. But let's talk about some roleplay first. There will be no full backstory segment this time, as it feels this character becomes what it should be only after the main quest is done. So in a way, the main quest is this character's backstory. There is only one question to answer before the game is started. Why would a dark elf be so eager to study a Nordic art of Thu'um? Perhaps he is of mixed heritage, with his father being a good Talos-worshipping Nord and his mother a dark elf refugee. According to the strange laws of Tamriel's biology, it would make him a dark elf with some very minor Nordic features. Other than that, his life before Helgen had been unremarkable and boring. It's only when he first sees Alduin flying over Skyrim, leaving ruin and death behind him, our hero becomes obsessed with the power of the dragons. Once he learns he can absorb a soul of a fallen dragon, he gets this strange idea that getting more and more souls will, over time, let him to turn into one of these powerful flying monsters of bygone age. He is very eager to fight Alduin because he hopes to absorb the World Eater's soul, as if he could become the World Eater himself. His hopes for becoming one with the firstborn of Akatosh are so high, he refuses to recognize the reality. When Alduin is finally slain, and his life essence is so obviously not absorbed by the Dragonborn, he just makes up the facts, convinces himself that this long-pursued dream has become real. The savior of Skyrim now believes he's become Alduin. He claims to be the World Eater and will tear apart anyone who says otherwise. It is rather important that the race for this build is a Dark Elf. First, the fire immunity is a good thing for a dragon-themed character, and it goes well with the elemental resistance granted by your block perks. Second, we are going to need quite a few points in the destruction skill without actually using it. We will increase this skill through paid training only, and so the starting bonus of a Dark Elf will be of much help. The reason to go through this ordeal is to get the Augmented Flames perk for our Fire Breath Shout. Combined with the Paternax meditation, it will turn this shout into a very reliable weapon. Of course, you can use some spells early on if you want to train your destruction. I just wanted to stay faithful to the sword and shield play, so paid training was a necessity. When it comes to Standing Stone, the Atronach was a rather obvious choice, especially that we won't have that many enchantment slots available for magic resistances. This character can do some enchanting, but it feels like the mastery required to get the extra effect perk is beyond his interests. So the chance of absorbing a spell or dragon breath is one of the very few remaining ways of guarding yourself against magic. However, with your reduced shout cooldown, you may also opt for Become Ethereal Shout for magic protection and thus go for the Lady Stone. It results in a more risky combat style, however, your tankiness is increased with attribute regeneration, and if you remember to eat a stew or two before going into a dungeon, the Lady Stone can make a noticeable difference. The attribute ratio is the one for an incredibly durable tank character. We will go for 3:1 health to stamina ratio and put a 45 health enchantment on our armor. This means non-magical characters will have very small chances to really harm you, but you will be running out of stamina quite often. Luckily, you can use your shouts very frequently, so drained vitality will replenish your stamina at a satisfying rate, and, as mentioned, Become Ethereal will allow you to charge and sprint without spending your stamina points. The skill set is a pretty straightforward one, pretty much obvious for a sword and shield character. Well, sword/mace and shield to be more precise. So, in one-handed, we will take all the ranks of Armsman, Fighting Stance, Savage Strike and all the ranks of Bone Breaker to max out our mace damage. I intentionally omitted any perk that would increase the speed or the general feel of agility in combat. The World Eater approaches slowly, steadily, like a gathering storm, giving his enemies some time to realize how screwed they really are. So the critical charge is not taken this time. Your armor rating will be so high, you can safely switch to dual weapon fighting from time to time, which is especially advisable against high-level mages since they are the only enemies with some potential to deplete your health bar. This is why I added Dual Fury to the mix. It is not necessary, but it will help. In the block skill tree, we will take all the ranks of Shield Wall and everything on the left-hand side up to Shield Charge. These left side perks are perfect for all tanks and defenders, and Shield Charge is a vital part of your combat style, so it should be of top priority when leveling up. Elemental protection due to limited enchanting slots on this character is crucial in dealings with dragons and mages. One perk I decided to skip this time is the Quick Reflexes. And it is again because I aimed for a slow, a bit clumsy towering presence on the battlefield. We don't rely on reflexes here, we just stand and swing our mace. And we bash with our shield. The Auriels Shield has a very unique enchantment which will charge itself with each deflected blow, and after 15 strikes landed on the shield, it will reach the full power, which you can release with power bashing to fling the enemies in front of you away, as if you used the Unrelenting Force shout. To complete the combat style, we need quite a few perks in heavy armor skill, including all 5 ranks of Juggernaut and everything on the right hand side, including the Reflect Blows perk, which comes to play very rarely and is far from reliable, but it just goes so well with the aesthetics of Alduin scale armor that I really felt compelled to take it. Again, I skipped the left side perks intentionally to feel the impeccable weight of my armor at all times. I still have a shield charge and whirlwind sprint shout if I really need to move around with haste. With matching set perk and our incredible armor, the armor rating for this character will easily exceed the armor cap, even without your shield equipped, which means you will have no need for special crafting gear when improving your armor. You may still want to have some fortified smithing effect for your weapons though, however, it again felt completely unnecessary. Skyrim has this obscure AI-related feature which causes some enemies to run away in panic if your armor rating and health pool are both very high. It makes sense, they see they can't harm you, so they start to panic. For some reason, I've seen this happening very often for this particular character. I am not sure what the algorithm is exactly, maybe the Alduin scale armor has some hidden effect to amplify this, but bandits and Forsworn really tend to flee in terror at the sight of me, without any illusion spells involved. It fits this character very well. One crafting skill we will really need to have some perk points in is smithing. The armor made out of scales of the World Eater needs Dragon and the Daedric smithing perks, as well as the Arcane Blacksmith, to be created and tempered at crafting stations, so it is available only to the absolute masters of the craft. Arcane Blacksmith will also be needed for the improvement of the Mace of Molak Bal, which is one of our go-to weapons. Some minor perk point investment is also advisable in the enchanting skill, however the build will be fairly strong even without it. It is very fitting to max out on fire resistance for this build, and some of the enchantments from Summer Mist mod only start to shine with higher enchanting efficiency, so it is overall a good investment. I will talk more about which particular enchantments I mean in the inventory section. But first let's talk a bit about the destruction skill, which is fairly important in my opinion to get the constant increase in damage for your Fire Breath shout. With the cooldown reduction enchantments, it can be used frequently and reliably, so increasing its damage output is a very good idea. It is a bit of a chore to reach the required 60 without actually using any spells, so I can't blame you if you decide to throw in some fire spells. However, you can just pay for some training every level. If you remember to do it, you should be able to take at least one rank of Augmented Flames before level 5. That's assuming the Dark Elf is your race of choice. Nothing else is really needed when it comes to perks, which means the build can be completed before level 45. However, as an Alduin wannabe, you should have a way of consuming the souls of your enemies, just like Alduin fed himself with the fallen heroes in Sovngarde. That's when the Mace of Molag Bal comes into play. It is one of the best maces in the game. It fits the aesthetics very well, and you can temper it to about 140 points of damage per hit. And that's without any smithing gear, just a blacksmith's elixir bought from an alchemy shop. Another key weapon would be the Dragonbane, which you will acquire during the main quest anyway, so why not use it in some dragon combat? But your most frequently used weapons will be the ones you create yourself using the very intriguing Summer Mist enchantments. So first we would like to have a blade I called the Dragon Sword of Atmora, which clears the shout cooldown timer whenever you kill an enemy with this mighty weapon. Well, to be more precise, it gives you about 50% chance of resetting the cooldown on a successful killing strike. It adds an element of randomness to the shout play, which is rather interesting and refreshing. The enchantment can be found in random loot and merchant's inventory throughout Skyrim, but it is, unfortunately, quite a rare one. Another weapon you should create is a mace with an enchantment called the Threshold Throw, which I called Fus, just Fus. It speaks for itself. The enchantment works in a rather complicated way. It stacks some abstract points on the target of any hit made with this weapon, and when this value exceeds the target's health, the target is thrown away from you. It is a more balanced way of doing it than it was in the Winter Mist mod, for example, when a similar enchantment just had a random chance of throwing an enemy away on hit. It means, however, that this mace will only be useful against tanky enemies who can withstand more than 1 or 2 blows. And the last enchantment you are going to need from Summer Mist is the one called the Deep Breath, which can be placed on a head slot item, and it gives you a random chance to reduce the cooldown of your shouts to 3 seconds. It does require a lot of enchanting training for it to exceed even 15% chance of it happening, but when it happens, it really is darn satisfying. If you want to do something more reliable and less random, you can place an enchantment called Amplify Distraction on your helmet instead. It will increase the damage output of distraction spells and effects, which includes shouts. Speaking of shouts, the list of the most vital ones for this build is now on display. There is one shout from the Thunderchild mod which I would really recommend, and it is called Armageddon. It calls down a limited area meteor shower, dealing more than decent fire damage to anyone in said area. It also fits the theme, as Alduin likes to do it every time you meet him in Skyrim. Even the one-word version of the shout will be very powerful, and with one word only, the cooldown on it will be only 24 seconds. It is limited to the outdoors areas, so it is somewhat balanced, less OP than Stormcall for sure. And with that said, the build is complete. It's been a blast to test it, and it is a refined version of my very first Skyrim character. The first playthrough in any Elder Scrolls game is always a sword and shield warrior for me. And it is a playstyle I really wanted to revisit for quite some time. There is the obvious drawback of having to play through the entire main quest before the build is completed, Before it happens though, you can still make the build work very well with the vanilla Dragonbone armor and as many as the two most easily obtained shouts of Unrelenting Force and Fire Breath. So it is not that much of an issue. Of course, there is the roleplay fun of being completely insane Harbinger of the Apocalypse, which is a fate of many Dragonborns anyway, I could imagine. So I hope you will have fun with this one and let me know how it went for you, should you choose to try it out yourself. Stay tuned for more Skyrim character builds and other content. If you are new to the channel, feel free to watch my other builds, give me notes, leave a comment and all of that. We will see each other again. Bye bye.